Comic creators, your new crowdfunding launch sidekick is here. The Comic Book Crowdfunding Planner from ComixLaunch is your ultimate step-by-step companion to planning, optimizing, and executing your crowdfunding campaign, helping hardworking creators stay organized, execute with confidence, and maximize success on every launch.
Hey, I'm Tyler James, publisher of Comics Drive and host of the ComixLaunch podcast,
which has been helping comic creators launch successful crowdfunding campaigns for nearly a decade. In that time, I've seen the same struggles come up again and again. Making a great comic, but no idea where to start with crowdfunding it, overwhelm at all the steps to launch and fear of missing something important, exhaustion during the campaign, and struggling with the emotional roller coaster of launching.
and finishing the campaign and still being unsure what worked, what didn't, and how to get better results the next time. If any of those challenges sound familiar,
you are not alone, and it's not your fault. Crowdfunding a comic requires a completely different skill set than making one. The good news is I have something that can help. To celebrate the 10th anniversary of ComixLaunch, I've distilled years of my own crowdfunding experience and the insights of hundreds of amazing guests I've had on the show into one essential tool. This new comic book crowdfunding planner is really 4 powerful books in one, designed to help during every phase of your launch. First, it's a launch planner, providing a step-by-step roadmap including guided templates and battle-tested ComixLaunch exercises to build a winning campaign. Second, it's an execution checklist, including action items and pro tips for every aspect of your project so you can launch with confidence. Third, it's a daily campaign journal with dedicated pages to track your campaign progress each day of your launch, prioritize your daily promotional activities, and stay in command of your project. And fourth, it's a post-launch debrief with a proven post-mortem process to capture what worked, what didn't, and what you'll improve on so that your next launch is even better. The Comic Book Crowdfunding Planner is perfect for first-time Kickstarter creators who want a clear roadmap from start to funded.
When it comes to running a Kickstarter, I never thought I could do it until I started using Tyler's tools and tips and tricks.
I have raised over $40,000 US. Everything I have launched has been done using the ComixLaunch tools. It's been the backbone of my success as a creator.
Experienced crowdfunders who want to refine and optimize their launch processes and get to that next level of funding success.
I've raised over $30,000 on Kickstarter. I wouldn't have been able to accomplish this without ComixLaunch. Tyler's guides have made it an effortless and stress-free process.
Tailor-made specifically for comic book creators, writers, artists, and publishers looking to streamline their campaigns and optimize their crowdfunding efforts.
The ability to break down the daunting task of running a Kickstarter into small, well-defined, achievable tasks gave me the confidence to finally launch a campaign.
I really needed an instruction manual, and that is exactly what Tyler gave me.
Perfect for anyone who has struggled with crowdfunding overwhelm and could use a physical tool to help focus before, during, and after your launch.
The timing of finding Tyler and his work was perfect for me because I didn't know what I was doing.
What helped me was getting access to all of the tools that Tyler puts together.
6 campaigns raised about almost $27,000, and I can honestly say I wouldn't have had anywhere near the success without ComixLaunch.
The tools included in Tyler James' planner were essential to getting the ball rolling for me.
Everything I know about running Kickstarters I learned from ComixLaunch.
Finally, it's for all the thousands of ComixLaunch listeners who have been asking for a resource like this for nearly a decade. For rewards, the new planner is available in a number of formats. A beautiful physical planner with a durable faux leather cover, digital PDF version with ready-to-print pages, and discounted multi-pack bundles for creators and publishers with many project launches on the horizon. All backers will be thanked by name on the ComixLaunch podcast, and there's limited show sponsorship opportunities available. I'm also opening my schedule for a few one-on-one crowdfunding coaching and mentorship opportunities, and you can also get access to some of the ComixLaunch Pro courses during this campaign.
Let's make your next launch the best one ever.
Back the Comic Book Crowdfunding Planner today, and I can't wait to see what you launch next.
Prepare to launch in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Memorial Day to all of the comic book creators and crowdfunders out there. I am Tyler James. This is another Comics Launch daily live stream where we're going to be talking comics, crowdfunding, and having a great conversation with a couple of friends of mine. Waiting patiently backstage, we have both Nate Streeper and Bret Juliano, who will be joining me in just a bit to talk about some projects that they have and just have a really cool conversation about comics, crowdfunding, the state of the world today, and a whole lot more. So I appreciate Bret and Nate for hanging out, and I appreciate you for tuning in or catching the replay. This should be a good one. On today's stream, I'm going to share just a quick update on the comic book crowdfunding planner. Campaign is going great. We are in the home stretch now, 4 days left. I have some more backers to thank. I'm going to teach a daily launch lesson for comic book creator crowdfunders, and then we're going to jump into the conversation with Nate and Bret. If there are questions for anyone that's tuning in live or is catching the replay, don't feel at all hesitant to drop a question into the chat to make this interactive. We would love to hang with you. If you are watching live, let me know. Say something in the chat. Let me shout you out in a bit, and let me know how your Memorial Day is going. But to begin here, I do want to start with just a little update on the campaign. We are, as I said, 4 days to go. We just went over the 17K mark, and actually it was creator Matt Yoakum who put us over 17K. Matt said, glad to get you over 17K, and thanks for all you do. Your work helped me get my own Kickstarter for my graphic novel Closet World over 12K and coming soon in hardcover. Congrats and thanks for your constant work. Hey, appreciate you, Matt. Thanks for jumping in and supporting this campaign. And yeah, just excited to see what else Matt and so many other creators have coming up. Just in terms of cool new stuff regarding the campaign, you may notice if you hit the campaign page, if you've been there before, I updated a couple of the images of the campaign. I went from the mock-up image that was here, which is a mock-up image that I made, to an image of the actual planner that exists. At least the first one does. I'm expecting this to show. They're dropping this in the mail for me today, and so I'm expecting to get my hands on it, but hopefully by the end of the week or early next week. But the printer sent over some production photos of the actual printer, so you can see, gold foil, nice and shiny. There's I decided to make the ribbon that's in the middle of the book gold because I thought it would stand out a little bit better and from the green, and I just don't know. Little design choice. It's like when they roll out all the choices that you could possibly have, it's fun to sort of choose your foils, choose your leathers, choose your insert. And so I'm excited just to see this thing in action and to put it into your hands so that you can put it into action as well. All right. Speaking of people putting this into action, I have some more backers to thank. One of the things I promised was to thank each and every backer on stream on the ComixLaunch network here, and I've been working my way through the list. We've got a few more backers to thank. I want to send a big thank you to Eric Borden, Steve Colley. Steve runs a great Facebook community for comic book editors. So if you're a comic book editor or play one in some parts of your overall mix, definitely check out what Steve has going. I believe it's the Comic Editors Alliance or something to that effect. It is a Facebook group. Dirk Manning, author of Right or Wrong and so many great comics, Nightmare World and others. Appreciate you, Dirk. Monkey King Comics, Tyler Blake, Rich Dewick. Rich is a creator that I've worked with on a number of projects, and Wailing Blade, Happy Hill, and he's been doing tremendous stuff for DC and for a number of other publishers. Great writer. Roberto Villacava, a talented artist. John McGuire, Ironclad Comics, Casey Lester, Corey Digg, Ramsey Ramirez, Jason William King, Matthew Rasnick, Lucas Fawcett, Moonlair Studios, Sean Paulette, Inverse Press, Donovan Knight, Travis Pelkey, Hawk Sanders, Greg Harms, Nathan Shaolin Hodge, Asante Mango, Chris Masari, Jesse Judy, Chris, Jeremy Brooks, Lulin Polanco, Danny Petrie, CJ Hudson, Jeff Rogvi, Ian D. Walker, Valerio Vega, Robert Krish, After Action Report, that's Josh Edgebean's crew, Tim Crone, Daniel Erickson, Rudy Vela, and Dai Lute. So again, appreciate every backer that's supporting this campaign, making it happen. We're doing this for you, and I can't thank you enough for being a part of it. All right. It's time for today's tip of the day. And your tip of the day builds upon a tip from last week, but your tip of the day is to brainstorm stretch goals before you launch, but don't announce them until after you fund. Now, a couple things I want to say about stretch goals. We talked a little bit about those when I was talking about milestone bonuses, but what stretch goals really are bonuses or new elements added to your campaign above and beyond your all or nothing funding goal. So when you launch a Kickstarter, you have you declare your project. Here's what I want to do. Here's the money I need to raise in order to do this thing. And that's kind of set. And then you basically build your 100% funding goal, hopefully around the bare minimum that you'd need to deliver on your promises. But stretch goals are an opportunity to go above and beyond your initial promise or your initial scope of your campaign. Now, some crowdfunding platforms like BackerKit, for example, BackerKit's crowdfunding platforms, they actually have tools to formalize stretch goals and to track them and to officially unlock them on the platform itself. And there's a place where you can look at the stretch goals and it's sort of built into the platform. On Kickstarter, as of right now, there's still not a platform feature, but they're a creator managed strategy. And so many creators will still use stretch goals and will do it their own way. They'll monitor them, they'll keep track of them, they'll announce them. And that is something that has been a feature for Kickstarter for as long as I've been launching projects on Kickstarter. And that's over 12 years now. So some common campaigns, stretch goals that comic book creators tend to use are things like upgraded covers and paper stock. It could be things like bonus digital content and mini stories or mini comics to add. It could be things like page count expansions, additional pinup art or prints, new reward tiers or add-ons that you will unlock, free upgrades for all backers. And the important thing to know about stretch goals is they really serve two main purposes during your campaign. First, they can keep momentum going after funding. And when I mean momentum, I mean backers still coming in and funding still rolling in. And then they can also reward existing backers for helping them push the project forward. They basically can incentivize backers that jumped in on day one or day two or early in the campaign. They can incentivize them to stay locked in and glued into the campaign, rooting for the campaign success, continuing to push the campaign success, because they recognize, oh, well, if this campaign does even better, my pledge may get even better. The product may get even better. The project may even be more awesome. And so it's a way to really keep momentum going after the campaign is funded and to especially reward the backers that have made it possible. Okay, so an example of stretch goals. I pulled this one from a recent comic book Kickstarter campaign that I ran. And you'll see for the stretch goals here, I've got a set of stretch goals that were roughly $2,000 apart. In terms of how, when they would be unlocked. So the first stretch goal started at $21,000. And the first stretch goal was a live stream Q&A with the creators. Okay. So that was an example of a digital only stretch goal. Doesn't really add any cost to the campaign, but it's still something that we've had a lot of fun with in the past and hope to do in the future. At 23,000, we did add 4 more pages to the Sync City of Killers book. All right. I've found in terms of asking backers and polling folks that additional content in the book is tends to be some of the most popular things that you could potentially offer as stretch goals. And so it's something that we try to do, especially for our graphic novel collections, where we have some flexibility in terms of page count. At 25,000, we added a new add-on. So we added a sync shirt. And so this is an example of, it's not something that everybody gets for free. Like I would never just like say, okay, at this level, everybody gets a shirt. I'd probably never do that, just simply because shirts are a different product, different way to ship, they're costly, etc. That could be a budget buster for your stretch goals. But this shows that your unlock could be a new add-on. Now at 27K, this was a add-on that some backers would get. Backers that had selected a certain upgrade or a certain signed bundle. Well, we upgraded the bundle to include an extra sticker. At 29K, we went back and we added 4 more pages to the book. So that's something you can, if it works at a lower level, you can do it again. More is more. And you'll see we had some other things. A couple of those we actually unlocked in terms of additional pages. And it could even be something as simple as announcing a new project or sharing a preview of a new project. It could be adding an additional mini print or an additional, it could be anything, right? What the stretch goal is less important than you have something that you're working towards. Now, why should you plan your stretch goals in advance? There's a number of reasons why planning stretch goals in advance can definitely be the smart way to go. And one of the first things is that planning in advance prevents the mid-campaign scramble. Reality is there's a lot that goes on in a Kickstarter campaign just on a daily basis and to keep it running while your campaign is live. And having a plan before you launch is super helpful, because then you can just execute the plan and you don't have to feel like you're building the airplane as you're flying it. Also, a lot of times if your campaign happens to catch fire and you fund quickly, well, you don't want there to be big gaps or dead time before you're starting to roll out these stretch goals, so that you can keep things rolling. Related to that, though, if you plan in advance, you have time to price your stretch goals appropriately. You can get quotes and get different cost analysis, so that you know exactly what the cost difference is if you do, say, a spot UV upgrade on your hardcover, or if you add an extra 8 pages to the project. What's that actually going to cost in dollars? And if you and given the time to properly plan that, you can make sure that that would be accounted for in any stretch goal funds that suddenly become available. What it also does, if you plan out your stretch goals in advance, is it gives you a vision of the ideal campaign journey that you want to take your backers on. So a lot of times what really can help is if when we launch, we're trying to launch and we're trying to make sure that the bare minimum lovable version of our product can get out into the world. And that's sort of why setting an attainable, maybe a little bit smaller than you actually think you can raise, or then maybe a little bit smaller than you actually need, goal can be a good strategy, because it lets you start and then build from there. But I also encourage creators when I'm working with them is like, hey, define what that very minimum version of this project is, and then define what the greatest conceivable version of that project is. And you may be able to use stretch goals to bridge the gap between the bare minimum and that like glorious, perfect vision. And if you can dream it, that is kind of the first step to making it all happen. And so even if you don't unlock all of your stretch goals or all of them during this campaign, having a vision for what might be possible gives you a good roadmap to potentially making it happen. But also, an important thing is that you don't announce your stretch goals too early. There's a couple of reasons for this. First, it's presumptuous. I do feel like announcing stretch goals before you fund, especially if like you're at 20% funded and you still have thousands and thousands of dollars to go, and you're already talking about what you would do if you raised an additional thousands of dollars on top of that. It seems presumptuous. It might give off the wrong vibe, or that you're counting your chickens before they hatch, or you are focusing on hitting the moon before you've even left the ground, right? And so likewise, if you haven't funded yet, talking about stretch goals takes the focus off of where it should be, and that's on milestone bonuses. And a previous tip on milestone bonuses that I shared earlier this week, that goes over that strategy. But if you're just focused on stretch goals, you're writing all about your stretch goals, you might miss out on the ability or the importance and power of using the milestone bonus strategy to get you to that 100% funded mark. And that's when you then roll out the stretch goals. Also, if you launch your Kickstarter page and already have your stretch goals listed on your page, you risk tying your stretch goal like numbers to the wrong funding milestones if you set them in advance. I have a lot of Kickstarter experience under my belt. I roughly have a good idea of what campaigns are going to do or what they probably will do before I launch. But even then, sometimes I get it wrong. I might be off by a couple $1,000s here or there. And so I do see some creators that launch with stretch goals already mapped out, and they end up unlocking like 5 stretch goals on day one. That would have actually been better. They would have been better served in most cases if those stretch goals had unlocked throughout the first couple of days or weeks of the campaign, because if they don't have an infinite number of stretch goals mapped out, they might be out of stuff to talk about during the campaign. And that's really what the last piece is. You're missing out on mid-campaign reveals and the power of surprises and things like that if you just use all of your stretch goal announcements at launch. I like to make launch day about launch day and then go from there and hold it. So holding stretch goals back for just a little bit lets me extend my campaign messaging. So in short, this is built into the ComixLaunch planner. So I wanted to make sure that you know that. The new planner will help you plan out not just those milestone bonuses, but also those stretch goals. There's a stretch goal strategy planner in the comic book crowdfunding planner. There's also dead zone checklists and other checklists, campaign management checklists that do incorporate stretch goal strategy in there. So I hope that helps there. But the important thing to take away from this is that stretch goals aren't just a reward for exceeding your campaign's success. They're actually a tool to help you create more success during your launch. When you plan them in advance and then deploy them throughout your launch, you'll feel like you're in the driver's seat on your next campaign. Okay, we are going in just a second to bring on my guests, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that I still have, I think, a couple spots left for hanging out with me during one of these live streams. If you go to comixlaunch.com/invite, you can see what seats are available. If you have a comic book project that you want to talk about on the Comics Launch podcast this week, I'm doing live streams every day. Oh, and just a heads up, on Wednesday, we have Kickstarter head of comics, Sam Cusack, will be on the show along with a couple of other comic book creator crowdfunders. And so we'll have the opportunity to talk to the man over at Kickstarter himself. So I hope you'll join for the Wednesday show as well. All right. I want to bring on my guests now. I'm excited to have these gentlemen here with me. Hanging out in the room is creators Nate Streeper and Bret Juliano. If you don't know these gentlemen, you should. Bret Juliano is the creator of the Dust Bunny Mafia, where he's bringing charming gangsters, or as he calls them, mobimals, to life with an all-ages comic series that tells real gangland stories through the lens of cartoon gangsters and like animal cartoon gangsters. He's also the co-author of the Detective Potatoes novels and is a frequent convention and pop-up attendee where he sells his playing cards and shirts and art prints and all of that to the fans. We also have Nate Streeper here. Nate is a writer and he has self-published 2 novels as well. So he's a writer and a novelist. Big time comic book collector and longtime fan, and now he is sort of living out his creative dreams by making his series Fang Hunters. We're going to talk about these projects while they're here. But Nate and Bret, how are you guys doing today?
So far, so good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day to anybody that pays attention to the calendar. But yeah, not too many big plans over here, so I'm happy to be hanging with you guys to talk comics and crowdfunding today. Let's just talk a little bit about the projects that you all have live right now, and then we'll discuss a few things. Let's start with Bret. Bret, you have a book that is called this title is from your Dust Bunny Mafia series. The project is called Mafia Unmasked, a comic guide to organized crime history. What are you cooking up for us today?
So this is a new guide where I basically, over the past 6 years, I've created a bunch of true story comics, or based on true stories, and I would incorporate real life mobster trivia into them. And this guide is basically taking the best of those 200 plus comics and really stripping it down and giving a chronological history for crime fans that are also into comics, but I want to make a cohesive story. And so this is kind of like, between this and a little bit of Googling, you would be able to get, the real high level of all the major events of organized crime in America. And yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It seems like kind of a great like entry point product to the world of Dust Bunny Mafia, but also something that like, oh, if I'm a just fan of organized crime stories or mob stuff, like this is or a history buff, like this seems like an easy sell for them.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of shows, and I have 6 volumes of my comics, and most people, unless they're real fans, they'll pick up 1 volume here, 1 volume there, and all those stories were pretty much they didn't have any cohesion to them. It was as I was inspired, I wrote them. And so this one I wanted to use more educational, kind of using it that lens, so I could actually take them into libraries or schools and be like, here's real history, but presented in a different way.
Yeah, sounds good. And appreciate you jumping on with me today. We also have Nate Streeper. Nate has a cool project called Fang Hunters, which is live. And this is a project I know that you've been pouring a lot into, Nate. Tell us a little bit about Fang Hunters.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on this, for one thing. Being Memorial Day, it's a day off from work for me, so I was able to fit this in, which is wonderful. Fang Hunters, basically, I'm a victim of Saturday morning cartoons from the 80s. And so I tried to write something that I'd want to read based on what I grew up experiencing. I wasn't into comics so much as a kid. I got more into the cartoons that were on TV. But this is kind of loosely based on that vibe, the 80s cartoon vibe, and as well as some 90s comics vibe. I'm a 90s comics guy. And it's basically about these 7 vampire hunters. They're from, like universes or versions of vampire hunting stories that we're used to telling or reading, but they're kind of merged, they're thrown together. So like I have I have a cowboy who kills vampires by shooting wooden bullets, a space cowboy. I have a ape marine who takes out vampires with a solar powered cannon. You know, it basically uses the power of the sun to destroy them. I have a little android girl who's like super strong and has all these things pop out of her, like Inspector Gadget. I have a mage from New Atlantis. He uses fireballs. I've got a gargoyle who's like, she's a berserker kickboxer with bloodlust, but she can't drink blood because she's only half vampire. And she can't be turned into a vampire because she's half vampire, but she still wants to drink the blood. Who else I've got? I've got a cave woman who's nigh invulnerable. You got to have one of those in the mix. And think that a Knights Templar who's not really a Knights Templar, but it's just fun to have a red cross on a tunic, so I threw him in there, and he's got a magical sword. So each character has like a means of killing vampires in the traditional sense, whether it's wooden stakes or the power of the sun or whatever. And then it's a found family story essentially, because I love those. So it's basically like you throw these 7 characters onto a spaceship together, and you have them try to get along while they go from one planet to another, answering distress calls. Basically, whenever an outbreak of vampires happens on a planet, they get the distress call. There's a whole system in place in this universe of mine for calling out for help, and then they show up and they take care of the vampire menace. So it turns out like vampires are not just an Earth only problem; they are everywhere.
Yeah, it's very much. It's kind of like if Guardians of the Galaxy were hunting vampires, and I've had the pleasure of reading a couple issues, and I like it does have that sort of Saturday morning cartoon feel to it, but also just, you know, a ton of creativity. I think also if you're a fan of like role-playing games or whatever, and you're just like, what if we took like cards from a bunch of different games and tossed them into one, or the old toy box where it's just like, all right, yep, we're gonna grab He-Man, we're gonna grab a Voltron character, we're gonna grab a couple of Autobots and some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and have them hunt vampires. That's kind of the vibe that I get with it. So I'm excited that it's live. This is your first funded Kickstarter, right, Nate?
Right. I tried this once before the ComixLaunch experience, before joining ComixLaunch Pro, and as everyone who joins our program says, it was a game changer for me. So I learned a lot, and I'm learning a lot more as I do this one. But when I tried it a year ago, I didn't reach the funding goal, and I think the primary problem was that my goal was too high. Yeah. So I lowered my goal, funded. It's about the same amount of money this time around as last time, but now I get to have a list of people who I get to send my comic book to and continue to try to build from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just, you know, sometimes it doesn't take massive shifts in terms of doing things differently to get a different result, but it also is perspective shifts on, all right, you know, hey, I'm this is your first comic book, this is your first series that you're really going in on, and you kind of got to build that audience from the ground up. And so setting an attainable goal can be something that that at least gets you in the game, so to speak. So my topic today, my tip of the day, was related to stretch goals. I saw that you did one stretch goal, Nate. What was your thinking there with that stretch goal? And then, you know, what approach have you taken towards stretch goals with this campaign?
Yeah, no, I'm super glad that I got to listen to you talk about stretch goals today, actually, because I wasn't sure how to use them, to be honest. In my head, I was kind of like, well, people have already backed my project. Why would I want to, like, how do I re-interest them in something they've already done? Like, that's how I saw stretch goals. I saw them like, okay, maybe I can get somebody to kind of check in or remain enthusiastic about it. But you just shared like a bucket load of tips that I'm going to start applying to my next one. Yeah, that was my one stretch goal, and I made it very low because I thought, you know, if I can hit my goal of 1,000, chances are I can get 200 more bucks, even if it's from my mom. So like I thought, you know, I've got a guaranteed stretch goal in there. But at the same time, I am not going to do it this way. I'm going to release them as I go on the next campaign. my one concern about my stretch goal is I made a promise right here within the first one that I'd be doing this in all future campaigns. And now I'm like, there's probably a better way to do this kind of stretch goal. So I might want to change it, but if I do change it, I'll make sure that it's for the better, that it's like even a better offer for the campaign backer.
Yeah, can you just explain? Love for you to explain just a little bit more about how you approach this or what your thinking was, and then I'd love to hear Brett, as someone that is has a lot more Kickstarter experience under his belt, to just give you some feedback, and then I'll share my thoughts on it as well. But can you just share what the thinking and the stretch goal strategy or approach or communication was, and then we can just chat about it while we're here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to have something to add, you know, whether it was a bookmark or a sticker or something like that, something to make it more dynamic. And my letterer, who's also a great graphic designer, Marshall, he came up with this idea of what if we added some playing cards or something. So I was like, that's a brilliant idea. He designed these cards. So he's really good at the kind of iconic graphic arts design. So you can see it right there. I made sure that like I had all 7 characters represented in the cards. That was kind of the theme here. So even though there's only those 3 face cards with the king, the queen, and the jack, that was 3 of the characters, and then the other 4 characters are represented by the suits. So like I have Bart the Marine represented by the sergeant stripe. I have Trinity with the roller skate. I have Thumba, the cave woman, with a raptor leg that she's been roasting, and then I've got the flame to represent the mage. So I thought, okay, well, that's cool as far as representing Fang Hunters, but I didn't want to increase the shipping cost by throwing an entire deck of cards into a bag or shipping it separately from a Gemini box. I got the Gemini boxes ready to go.
Right.
So I was like, well, what can I do? So I can slip these cards, just a couple of them, into the back of every comic book. So it's kind of like a fun little extra gimmick, you know, slide the card in to a bag and boarded comic, and I'd give 2 away per comic. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know, if I was on the receiving end of this thing, how annoyed would I be that I'm only getting a couple cards? Like, you know, you need the whole deck if you're going to play a game. You know, so I thought, well, maybe I should make it an add-on. So I looked into how much it would cost to buy these and all that stuff, and I'd have to buy a ton of decks for it to really pay off. So I'm thinking more like if I did it as an add-on, it would just be for fun, and it'd be a break-even scenario. So like if I sold each deck of cards or offered it for $20 as an add-on, then I'd break even, because I don't know if people would want to pay more than $25 for a deck of cards. And then I also have to take the shipping into concern and all that.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like you've got 2 things going on. So it says just on the page I'm checking out now, you said if we hit $1,200 mark, which you did, we'll toss in some Fang Hunter themed playing cards. We'll slip 2 random cards into every physical issue we ship out. And at some point you may end up with an entirely playable deck. But you also have the ability for backers to buy the whole deck. I want to jump over to Brett for feedback, thoughts. You're someone that is, I think, tried every single possible tchotchke swag known to human beings and shipped them all. Just general feedback on this approach, and maybe some ideas on how you might have structured it differently.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of playing cards. I've done 2 playing card Kickstarter campaigns that both did extremely well in the past. I'm looking to do a 3rd. I'd say for one, for the add-on, maybe check around some different places, some different printers, because and it also depends on what scale you want to do, because you can do, for one of my campaigns, I did actually it was for a friend. I had done a deck of cards of 1 character that my friend really liked, and I printed 6 copies of this deck, and it was the same thing. It was very expensive, but then I was able to give this one to a friend, keep one for myself, and I put 4 of them up on a future Kickstarter campaign and was able to make it like a collector's item, and I put it at $50 for those 4, and all 4 decks sold. So something to consider is, you know, maybe you do a short run. You have an artist, you have an artist do something very specific with it that's not the general, like you did this time, to try and incorporate the different, all the different characters. If you just focus on one element and really do that, you can, sometimes have something like that come out of it, where people will obviously, collectors will latch onto a certain thing. I like the idea of, slipping a card or 2 in. That though gets tricky, because, like you said, unless you're keeping track of like who has what, you could end up with 8 kings or 12 kings, and, a whole random thing that you're never going to be able to do anything with. And also, it could take, if you're doing 2 cards per campaign, you have 54, 52 cards in a deck, you're going to need 26 campaigns for someone to get a full deck, which is possible easily.
You're going to do easily 26 issues of this, right, Nate? You got this.
Sure.
You've got this mapped out for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think Brett brought up definitely some points that I would make. Just like if you could rewind the clock a little bit, I know that like graphically, like these cards look really cool, and your characters, I think, do lend themselves to the playing card motifs. But because every deck of cards has 52 or 54, if you want to count jokers, like unique cards, that's a lot of that's a lot of unique individual things to print, unless you're like printing on like card sheets and things like that, and like double-sided. There's probably some ways to be a little bit more efficient with it, but so like what I've done with trading cards that seems to work pretty well for me, or I don't really mind doing it, is we've been giving out free trading cards with some of the sync Kickstarter campaigns. And there might be, sometimes for the Kickstarters, we would do like, we would start off and everyone would get 3 cards or something like that. But then over the course of the campaign, that set that everyone gets might be expanded to 4 or 5 as the campaign, like that could be a stretch goal unlock. And because everyone was getting them for free, or big chunks were getting them for free, the volume would be high. I mean, our sync campaigns, are in the hundreds of backers. So the trading, like individual trading cards, is one of those things where like the more you print, the cheaper they get. The cost to print 500 is only like $10 more than to print 250 and things like that. So there's economies of scale to have there. But what we would do is each campaign, there would only be like 4 new ones printed. So that's, 4 products being printed. But I had overprinted on previous campaigns, and then I do sell the complete set as an add-on. If you missed a previous campaign, you just buy the complete set. But every campaign, the complete set gets a little bit thicker and a little bit thicker, and the cost per the complete set might go up a little bit. But I found like every campaign we're adding a few things, but I'm not having to print 52 cards or to get to a complete set. And that also, because it's not coded as playing cards, which anything less than a full deck is in a lot of cases worthless. Trading cards, I've got 3 trading cards. Awesome. As far as I know, there's only 3 trading cards, right? Or, hey, if you want the full deck, there's actually 25 trading cards and you can get the full deck here, or, and there's new ones that come with this campaign. So that's kind of the approach that I've taken, is just more on the trading card side than the poker deck side. But I will say, your illustrations and characters do definitely lend themselves to the playing card approach.
It's also nice with the trading card that you can do different upgrades to them that you can't typically do with. You can do several things with poker cards. If you like, you can change the paper, how glossy or smooth it is. If it's promotional, if it's, people that want to do card tricks, you can upgrade things that way. But with trading cards, you can actually start adding foil to it. You can do gilded edges. You can do, gloss. You can do other things to add that special value.
Yeah, these are great ideas. I wish I could turn back the clock and do trading cards instead. That makes a lot more sense. Um, if I do, what are your thoughts on if I just do a deck of cards, the entire thing as an add-on moving forward, as opposed to putting a couple in the comics? Would that be fair? I mean, in my first Kickstarter, I kind of said I would do this, and I feel like I have to follow through for the next million Kickstarters,
Yeah.
So how do we feel about that?
I mean, a lot of times with add-ons, it goes back to like if there truly is no margin, the only products that I roll that have sort of like less than 50% margins are t-shirts, and that's because one, I don't have to fulfill them. It's print on demand. They go direct from the printer. And two, it's like somebody buying to do advertising for us, because
Right.
you get a t-shirt, you wear a t-shirt, you wear it to conventions, it's brand awareness. And so products like that are things that like I don't mind. But the idea of like, well, here's a break even add-on that I'm going to add, and I'm going to make 6 of these. It's the kind of thing where like, if okay, best case scenario, I sell 6 every campaign but make no money on it. All that's doing is adding time and cost for you for no real return. So if there's another option, I'd probably go with the other option.
Well, Brett, you brought up a really good point. I mean, exclusivity adds value, right? So if I did only print 10 of these, which means they cost more than if I printed 100, and then maybe I could sell them. It's like there are limited to 10 copies, 10 quantity, and then carry them over from one campaign to the next for that matter, but charge, $40 for them so that people who really wanted them could get them, and I'd still make a little bit of a profit off of it.
Yeah, definitely. If you do something like that, upgrade to make sure you get like them shrink wrapped, and maybe find like that's one of the things I did with that special deck is I got them shrink wrapped, and I had a special pen where I signed them. I signed the deck as well, and so I had it so that real collectors would be like, this is an autographed deck. There's only 6 of them. I'm never printing this again, and just blast out kind of hit the key points of here's why it's so exclusive. I'm not doing this again. There was this many printed. It was signed, and whatever.
Yeah, good ideas.
So, Brett, I've noticed some of your campaigns, they tend to be on the shorter side. I think stretch goals is a strategy that really is powerful, especially when you have a longer campaign and you need more things to sort of keep people's interest. But what's your approach been to sort of campaign length these days as someone with a number, 21 projects under your belt? And then how do you make the decision of whether or not to have a stretch goal program for your campaigns?
Yeah. I've experimented with everything from 5-day campaigns to 30-day campaigns. I generally feel the sweet spot is somewhere in the like 18 to 21 day campaigns. I feel like 30 days, as Tyler, can sometimes be a real slog. And so 3 weeks is really kind of the sweet spot I've found if I'm trying to raise, 2 to 5,000, which are generally where most of my campaigns end up. The majority of my campaigns are in that funding range. And it really just depends if I have things that I want to tie in tchotchkes or other things that I want to add, like Tyler mentioned, with kind of 50%, you know, covering, you know, double your cost kind of things. One of the things that I try and do with my add-ons or my stretch goals is I want to pay, basically I want to do 3 times the cost of what it is to make the product to get the stretch goal. So if I find a deal on vinyl stickers for, you know, $30, I'm going to make the stretch goal $100 more to get these products. Or the same kind of thing will happen with if I can get, like, in a previous campaign, I did a challenge coin that I only had 100 of them printed, and it had it was of one of my characters. It was actually with the deck of playing cards that I did a couple of years ago. That one I had to order 100 of them, and they came out to about $3 a piece, and I made them an add-on for $10 once we hit a certain stretch goal. And so I like to make sure that, you know, it's not going to cost me more to make the product and ship it. I'm not going to lose money doing this add-on, because that's another thing you'll want to factor in, is, you know, certain things cost more to ship, and especially shipping in the US versus shipping to Australia, or there are things like that. And one of my last campaigns, I did a all-in bundle and didn't fully think out all the logic for it. And I had this, like, 6-pound box of comics that I was shipping, and I had to ship one to South Africa, and it cost me nearly $100 to ship that. And that was something I put like $50 for shipping, you know, everywhere outside the US. And for most places that worked. But there was this one that it was like, nope, that's going to double the cost because it's going to some remote place that I wasn't expecting. So that's, you know, something to be careful of. But
yeah. And then, you know, that can definitely, there are a few quirky spots that you don't think about until you're sort of stuck with the bill. So Bret, as somebody that has tried so many products and offered things during Kickstarter campaigns, like, I'd love it if there was like one sort of like thumbs up product that like more creators should think about doing, because whether it be for cost, return, or just things that it adds to the campaign. And then maybe another sort of never do that again product, so that you don't get stretched by these stretch goals, or just, you know, having additional flights of fancy of, or wouldn't it be cool if
that's a tough one, because like you said, I've done a lot of different add-ons and pieces. I mean, I've gotten really good return on investment. They're hard to chip, but doing like bourbon glasses or pint glasses, I've done a flask that's been fully engraved on it, and those have been amazing return on investments for people that, you know, are into that kind of thing. If you're doing anything glassware, make sure you pack it really well. But I've shipped things across the world, bourbon glasses and things like that, and haven't had any complaints. They're pricier, but I've had amazing return on investment on those. But you want to put in, you know, find a good person to make the product. Don't just, you know, slap a sticker on it and say, you know, charge $20 for it. But that's one that I've had great success with, and my backers keep coming back for those things.
Yeah, and it's a cool, like, on brand thing for a mafia themed bootlegging world of you know, gangsters and hard men and hard drinks, hard liquor.
Yeah, so definitely not for everyone, but if you can fit it in, and I mean, Nate, with doing like a D&D, taverns and all that is definitely a big tie-in, because how many parties or stories start out at the tavern and that kind of a thing.
My first issue starts off at a saloon, so yeah.
So Nate, have you started doing conventions or any other ways to get your book out there?
I just signed up for some like a week ago. I went on like conventions.com or whatever. I found a site, and I signed up for 3. One of them it's kind of great just to get my feet wet. It's very local. I live in Ventura, California. We're a smallish beach town, and there's a guy who owns a toy store in town, and I never knew that this toy store even existed until I discovered the convention first that he puts on. He's been doing this, I guess, since 2019, and it's just going to be in like one of the small local downtown theaters that they use for all kinds of events. One of the theaters without chairs everywhere. It's just kind of open space, and you can put chairs there if you want. So I know it's going to be small, but I think that's good. Yesterday I just bought everything for my booth. I bought a couple of banners. I bought a tarp for my backdrop. I bought a table runner. I bought some displays, cases, tiered, slots for my comic to show up. So I'm excited about it, but it's kind of funny because I found out about it late in the game. And when I finally went to sign up, I filled out the application, and I didn't hear back for a few days. I'm like, oh, I guess, at some point they'll get back to me. It's June 28th is when the convention is. And so I looked on Facebook. I'm like, I wonder if this guy has a website or a Facebook page. And he did. And then the most recent post was, we're all booked up. Sorry. And so I was like, oh man, I can't get to go to this con. I wanted to do that. So I reached out to him. I just sent him a comment in this Facebook post and sent him an email as well. And he was like, you know what, Nate, we got one space left and it's in the lobby, and it's a 6x4. And it sounds like I'm going to be next to the popcorn machine or something like that, but that can be a good thing,
That could work. Yeah.
And then the others are San Francisco and Fresno. And I'm trying to get into Long Beach, but I can't figure out what link to click on. If anyone knows what link to click on for the Long Beach Comic Con, please send me that link.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully somebody, a fellow Long Beacher will help you out. And Brett, I know you've been sort of playing around at different size shows and been doing a lot of the pop-up sort of craft brewery shows. And there's a craft brewery that I go to right here in town, and they actually had a comic book convention a few weeks ago that I didn't it was too late for me to sign up for, but it was just, I was like, I thought of Brett, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good time and a good experience. And I did notice that, people, I don't know how great sales were, but everybody was walking around with drinks in hand, which I presume might make them a little bit easier to sell. But and I think we talked a little bit about, you're just trying to get the balance between, making shows be worth it and not and doing too many shows in the same area where it's like, oh, here are my customers, but they've already bought everything on my table. What's your approach been this year?
Yeah, I've been trying to diversify, because I've done, like you mentioned, I do a lot of craft brewery events, and the hard thing in our line is if you have a banner run of luck on Kickstarter, a couple of campaigns that don't make it, it's really hard to produce new stuff. And so if I go to the same place, 6 months later and I don't have any new products, then it's like, yeah, I've got a couple of prints, but other than that, everything on the table you have or have seen before. So I've really been trying to do like library events, kind of give back to the community in that way, where I'm trying to go to places that don't have as big of restrictions, and anyone, they're really geared towards families being able to come to like a Comic-Con experience without having to go to the big cities or go to downtown and pay $50 per person to get in and things like that. And I'm also trying to do some more kind of I've had a couple of really good shows that are Comic-Con based, but unfortunately those shows were pre-COVID, and they didn't make it, and so it's hard to go back to them, and they've kind of branched off into different. Some of the organizers went to other shows, and it hasn't been as easy to get into those as well. So I've been trying to, like with this book, I'm trying to get into more of an educational route, trying to get into uh, libraries, literary fests, author fests, and see if I can go that route and bring my comics and stuff into those kind of events, or even just like art events where you have pottery and you have photography and painting and stuff, and then you have comics. That's something very different than what people are going to expect. Same thing with the literary shows. Since I both write and draw, it's nice being able to play both sides. And so, like, I go to Comic-Con shows to try and be like, here's the graphic novel side, and then I go to the author fairs to, distinguish myself as a comic artist. So it's not the same books that everyone's expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is awesome, guys. It's been cool to see what you're up to and everything. You are both veterans of the ComixLaunch Mastermind, and so this was a season where I actually took a break from the Mastermind to open up some opportunities to do some things. And the ComixLaunch Planner is sort of one of the things that I was able to free up a little bandwidth to get done. But since you're here, I'm just curious if either of you has a topic or just something you want to get some feedback on, or just a question that you want to chew on for a few minutes before we wrap things up.
How about an epiphany?
Yes,
Epiphanies are good.
I love it. We're all looking for those.
Yeah, right. No, I feel like, and this is something I keep trying to reconvince myself of almost every day as this Kickstarter is working its way into its last week. But because it's hard to maintain the epiphany mindset. You have it in the shower and it's like, oh, this is a wonderful thought, but it's hard to maintain those. But basically, I feel like I've been kind of thinking about this all wrong as far as what doing a Kickstarter, what getting a comic book out there is all about. In all honesty, I really like writing. I like creating. I like coming up with these comic books. Creating these characters was really fun. Working with artists, the collaborative efforts there, it was beyond expectations what my artists have been pulling off, what they're capable of. That's the reward, like having a page of art come in and land in the shared Google Drive. That's the reward. And this Kickstarter is really just a bonus, is how I'm trying to think of it. It's a means of subsidizing doing something that I love. And I say I've been going about it wrong because we all have that dream as writers, as creatives, of like making it big time, and Netflix makes the show about our product, and we get that 5%, agreement with when the movies come out, and it's not about that. It's the reward has been more about the process of creating these and taking a step back and realizing that that's the reward. It doesn't matter necessarily, how much I get in funding for it. It's more about actually how many backers I get. Like I like the idea of more backers rather than more money, because I just want to share my product with that many more people.
I think that's a powerful thing to embrace, and a difficult one too sometimes, because it kicks, like, while of all the platforms, I think Kickstarter is among the most egalitarian in that everybody who launches a Kickstarter project gets access to the same tools, gets access to the same constraints potentially of how you set up your page, what you can and can't do during the launch. You have access to the same choices when you launch. And so compare that to a lot of other places that like prioritize where your book is going to show up in the store, Marvel section, DC section, mainstream indie section, and then everything else crammed into like the back closet, or just even catalogs or things like that, where indies are at the back. So all that's true, and you have a good shot, but at the same time, it can be, it is also a platform where the first thing listed is how much did this raise and how many people are buying this thing, and that's not something that there's no hiding, there's no fudging those numbers really. That can happen, in other places, or you never know exactly, what certain books are doing, things like that. And Kickstarter, it's very transparent, so it can be very easy to get caught up in those numbers and those metrics. But I think about, because I do remember, and I was creating comics in a world before Kickstarter, and I just think about how many books would have never made it past the 3 to 5 page initial pitch that no publishers said, yeah, I want that and I'm going to pay you for it, or I want that and we're going to go to bat for that. And so they just get abandoned and abandoned and abandoned. I'm sure that there were some creators that were it not for Kickstarter, would spend their whole life just doing 4 to 5 page rejected pitches, and never actually create a book, get it out into the world, get it into a fan base, and potentially, make something that has not just some commercial success, but personal fulfillment. So I think that's a good attitude. Thoughts, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I've struggled a lot with the idea of, I do a lot of shows. I do usually 3 on average per month, give or take. And I've been doing it since 2018. I mean, obviously COVID had a little break in there, but so, you have a bad convention, you sell nothing, or you don't make your table, and it can really hurt your ego. But the nice thing is, just the feeling of getting something out there, remembering that, you have backers that you have people that have spent, X amount of money to help fund your strange little comic or whatever, these weird ideas that we get and then want to, create something with it. And it's nice and reassuring, knowing that there are fans, usually through Kickstarter and these other platforms all over the world that, wouldn't have found your stuff if it wasn't, for the internet or for these kind of things. And recently I was kind of getting a little bit burned out just trying to make the comic, go to the shows, not having things sell well, and just kind of taking a step back from that and realizing, the economy's down. I'm hearing it through all the shows. Certain Kickstarters aren't doing as well as they used to. But just getting back into the projects, getting something built, and just being able to get that creativity and stuff out of your head into something that wasn't there before is also really satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. And so keeping a focus on what you're creating and why you're creating it, as opposed to the results that creating it will do or not do, I think is key to ever, continuing to be at this for any length of time. And as long as you make it, anything is possible. If you never make it, well, you're not going to have any chance at hitting any of your dreams and I think there's some creators or some people in general with a lot of things in life is they do have dreams and visions that they want to go after, but they don't, because if they actually go after it, well, it might not work. And so they never actually take the leap. And what's funny about that is by protecting themselves from trying and failing, they're guaranteeing that they'll never get the result that they dream of. Like if you take action, who knows? You might just mess around and and hit that goal, or discover something great along the way. And so it's inspiring to see so many creators move their projects forward of all sizes and with all goals in mind. So, but yeah, I think that's a good epiphany and a good lesson for other creators to keep in mind, as hard as it can be sometimes when you're in the middle of a launch.
Right.
Yeah. Good stuff, Nate. All right. Before I let you both go, is there a particular reward or pledge level or just something cool that you want to shout out? Maybe it's a cover, maybe it's something about your campaign that you want to highlight before we wrap it up. Maybe start with Nate.
So for mine, it's, again, product of 90s comics. So it's all about the multiple variant covers. I got a ton of them.
Yeah.
That's the main cover, and it's got all 7 characters. And then I made sure to have a variant cover for each of the 7 characters. So that's 7 more covers. Cowboy, the Marine Ape, the Gargoyle, the Magic User, the Cave Woman up in the bushes there, up in the tree, the Knight, and the Android. And the way it works is like, as I release 7 issues, it's going to be a 7-issue volume 1. Oh, and then that's a wraparound virgin cover with all 7 again. But as I release each issue, I'm going to have, another version of each of those covers, right? So there'll be like, for example, the Android girl is sitting in a tavern. That one's interconnected. So there'll be another cover with one of the other characters that belongs to that series, that set. Same with the icons there. There'll be 7 of those. It's like a different color, but otherwise 3 icons. I got the idea from that, from Love, Death, Robots. That's the vamped out cover above you, that each character, as though if they had become a vampire, what that would look like, and what if scenario. That's obviously the toy package cover, which is all the rage these days, and it's the best toy package cover I've ever seen. Uba Chaku Iba did that. He's my artist for that. Let's see, what's the one up above? I can't remember. Oh, that's the as if you're choosing a character for a video game, and it's kind of fun to see all their attributes.
Yeah,
kind of hybrid video game, role-playing game kind of stuff, fighting game even. That one's my Uba Chuck would draw. Please draw him in an outhouse picture. I don't have a series of people in outhouses. That's more like just a character focused one.
Just a character moment, yeah.
Character moment, and that's also above it, a character moment by my first artist, Terrence Burks, who did the first issue in interior. So I have 2 artists. They go back and forth doing the interiors of every other issue, and then between the 3 of them, Marshall, my my letterer as well, we pump out all those covers.
Yeah, I love it. So making the covers that you want, or that you'd want to collect yourselves, and then leaning into that collector mentality where, hey, if I get one, well, my collection of these covers gets better with every additional one. I think that's a smart way to go, Nate. So I hope it works out well for you and for your fans. And Brett, Mafia Unmasked, anything in particular you want to call attention to before we wrap up?
Yeah, so I'm doing a limited edition print with this campaign, in which, so that is, so there's 25 of these prints being made, and I'm doing them on 100-pound paper, signing and numbering each one, doing a little sketch on them as well. Really trying to make a collector's item out of this. I did it with my last Based on a True Story campaign that went off really well, and I wanted to expand that a little bit. And the fun thing about this is, so honor, loyalty, and respect is kind of the trio of mafia values that is, kind of the founding rules when it was kind of established that all mobsters would, honor each other, they'd be loyal to each other, respect the hierarchy and the kind of group and the different rules. And then in the bottom of it, I have 1869 underneath it, which was the first recorded history, the first recorded account in the newspaper of mafia, or what would become the Italian American mafia. And it came out of New Orleans, when they basically printed something about a bunch of Sicilian murderers and thieves banding together and causing ruckus. And so that was kind of the first in print version of what became the Italian mafia in America. And so, yeah, it's a design that I've had for a while. I've had it on a t-shirt, but I haven't really put out there. But I think it really encapsulates the brand that I've been putting together for, 12 years, and just a fun way to have that and have it in a, something fun to look at, but also a collector's piece, and have that limited edition. So there's 25 of them available on this Kickstarter campaign. 5 have already been spoken for, and a few more. And I have a bundle at $40 that you can get the book and this print. So
very cool. Yeah. And appreciate the combo of history and your own unique spins on these gangster tales. I think it's a fun brand, and I'm glad that you're continuing to rock and roll with it. So, well, appreciate you, Brett and Nate, hanging out with me, and I like catching up, and wish you the best with upcoming conventions and the rest of this Kickstarter campaign. I hope all of those go great for you, and that this is a solid summer for us all. Thanks so much for being here, and for everyone else that was able to tune in. What's up, Jesse? We had Arc Comics tuning in, CCCP Mock, all left some comments, and for everybody else that tuned in, we appreciate you, and we can't wait to see what you all launch next. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
The Comics Launch Planner is going to give you a roadmap so you can launch confidently, whether this is your first campaign or you've launched a bunch. Hey, I'm George O'Connor. I've kickstarted 10 projects raising over $50,000, and Comics Launch is a big reason for my success. Tyler has studied Kickstarter for over a decade, and he's going to help you avoid pitfalls and give you the best insights to make sure that you and your project shine on the platform. He's also going to help you with the mental aspect so you can stay sharp and positive and professional throughout the entire launch. This planner is going to give you the tips and insights Tyler's created from over the years of studying the platform and helping hundreds of people launch their projects. As someone who's been with Tyler since the beginning of Comics Launch and has absolutely benefited from his insights and trainings, I cannot recommend the Comics Launch Planner enough.
I've been using the tools from ComixLaunch since 2020 to run all these successful Kickstarter campaigns. When it comes to running a Kickstarter, I never thought I could do it until I started using Tyler's tools and tips and tricks. He really has this great way of putting everything together and making it so easy to tackle. So something big and challenging like a Kickstarter campaign becomes really easy to do when it's broken down into these steps. My name is Melissa J. Massey, purveyor of fine fantasy comics and tragic shenanigans. I would recommend this to anyone who wants to launch a book or a comic on Kickstarter. It really breaks down the process and helps you to position yourself well so that you can stand out and deliver a fantastic book to your audience. I mean, the results don't lie, and the pile's getting a little hard to hold. So check out the Comics Launch Planner. It's going to be the best investment you make for yourself and for your creative business.
Before Comics Launch, I struggled to raise $3,000 on my first campaign. And since joining Comics Launch, I have raised more than $370,000 across more than 30 campaigns. That's a huge difference. It's quantifiable. Hey everybody, it's Clay Adams. I'm the writer of Blazing Blade of Frankenstein, Dream Quest, co-writer of Carmilla Unbound, Prodigal Son, and co-editor of the Nightmare Theater horror anthology. I wish I had this planner years ago. Tyler, what are you doing? Get on this. Start shipping these things out. Can we just skip the campaign? Let's go.